today is what I call our new Technology Executives Review Highlights show. It's kind of like I'll age myself, a Casey Kasem's top 20, but really more, what's his name, Ryan Seacrest top show that he does on Saturdays. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you in just about an hour or so, not much more, just some of the highlights of what we've been doing, the interviews and the insights, not from me, but from the people that you saw when you registered, and from our board of advisor members. We got some really smart people that I've been interviewing and very experienced, and we're grateful for them for sharing. So this is me, your host and founder of Technology Executives Club. I also have a new program I've been launching called Technology Marketing Coach. For those of you on the industry executive side, if you're interested in that, let me know. And again, it's brought to you by Technology Executives Club. And this is the agenda. It's very straightforward, a little different to some of my other activities and other events. What we're going to do is I'm pretty much done with this intro. I'm going to show you, I'm going to get right to the highlights reel. And we've got some great people here today. Bill Hester, who's the CIO of transformation over at Dwyer Omega. I'm going to share some of his tips that he learned it was in his board of advisor interview. And it was about what a transformation project really looks and feels like. Very interesting. Then we got Jeff Scheetz, who's the CIO of City of Avondale, Arizona, and he's an award-winning CIO. He wins these awards every year. In fact, he's up for one now, and he's going to talk about. I'm going to share some of his lessons learned or strategies that he uses. Tom Irvine, CIO of Monosol. They're the ones who make those Tide podcasts. You know, no, they're not really plastic, but the little podcast, the Tide Pods. That was a Freudian slip. The Tide Pods. And he went to Gartner, the symposium, and he shared an excellent presentation. So I'll share some of the things that he shared with us and show you where to watch the whole thing. And then I had a panel with Tom Irvine, Tom Drez, who's CIO, recently retired CIO, but he's still very active at Christian Brothers, there for like 37 years, I think. And John Parkinson, who, if you've been in our events, is kind of a regular. He's awesome. And we talked about 2023 to 2024 forecast, 2023 review. We did that in December. I'm going to highlight some of that and show you where to watch that. Okay, so let's get started. If you have any questions, use the chat box. And again, for those who've been with me for a while, we used to be an event company. We'll still do some, I think, a annual event. But really, we've gone online. We're a digital media and peer advisory community, empowering and promoting both technology executives, CIOs, internal executives, CTOs, as well as technology industry executives. That's new. That's relatively new. So if you're on the supply side, whether you're a consultant or a supplier in some way, and you're senior enough that you have some insights, we will talk to you about being on the board of advisors. So anyways, if you're interested. So anyways, here are the people again. Let's just get right into it. And this is a segment I call Lessons Learned from a Career in Innovation, Success, and Fun. So let's just get right to it. So if you go to our site, and this is where you'll be able to see it. If you go to the site, technologyexecutivesclub.com, and you're at the home page here, I'll show you, and you go to our board of advisors, you'll see a bunch of different board of advisors, and not all of them, but about a third to half of them have done these board of advisor interviews with me. And you can see some of the people. There's Tom from Christian Brothers, Anuf, who's the VP of Engineering Granger, and the list kind of goes on. There's Kim, CIO Field Farm Bureau of Michigan. There's Jeff that I mentioned. So anyways, here's Bill Hester. And you're correct. I'm going to share this segment. Again, lessons learned from digital transformation. So I'm going to turn on, do me a favor. I just want to make sure you can hear this because I can hear it. I think I clicked the button right. Okay, I mean, you're at Dwyer, you started off VP of IT, you're now the CIO. Somebody reply and tell me they could hear that when I played it. Yep. Okay. With that, I'll mute myself and I'll see you in about 10, 12 minutes. Transformation. I mean, you had you've had a really good run there, and you've done a lot. I've heard you did an ERP. But what are some of the things that you got accomplished there, and maybe lessons learned? One or two things.
One or two things. Well, coming in, the company was just coming off of a failed ERP implementation. They tried to put in JD Edwards for 3 years. It didn't work. That's why they were looking for somebody to come in and fix the IT environment, because they had cut spending because they were putting all the spending into the ERP. So it was pretty bad when we got there. The ERP they were running was put in 92, right? Still working. The company ran great. It was just an old green screen. It really didn't have any of the new technologies for the sales team. The sales team got green bar printout. You remember green bar? I remember the first day I walked into Dwyer, and I'm walking through the data center. I'm hearing this noise. I'm like, that sounds like old green bar printer, and went back in the back room. They opened the door, and here were stacks of green bar. And I said, people still use that? And they're looking at me like, yeah, why? I didn't know people did that anymore, right? And somebody would sit there and break it apart and mail it out to the salespeople. Here's your monthly, sales data, and it's green bar. That was where the company was, but the company was selling fantastic products, right? They're an engineering company and a manufacturing company. They weren't an IT company. So it was first having to build a strategy for the family to show the family that if we invest a little, the payback's going to be tremendous, right? And here's the roadmap of what it's going to take. So first thing was stabilize the environment, right? I mean, their network was down. The IT group used to consider it a successful week if Outlook stayed up 4 days in a row, right? It was, so it was just the basic blocking and tackling. And I remember this one customer service agent, it was my first week, and I was just walking around. I was talking to him, and she said, so why did you join the Department of No? And I said, what do you mean the Department of No? She said, well, anything we ask from IT, they always say no. I said, this is what we have to change.
That's a big
and we
lesson.
changed that, right? Yeah, that would, to me, that was one of those light bulbs, right? That came on, the Department of No.
That's what they called it.
That's what they called it, the Department of No. So I called the team together and I said, we will not be called that ever again. Now, that doesn't mean we just say yes to everything. But what we are going to do is find out what the business need is, not the request, what the business need, and we're going to answer that. So that was a real change management for me with a team that had been put together and had been there a long time. Dwyer was one of those companies you retired from, right?
Yeah.
And so I did have to make some difficult calls. There were people that couldn't make the shift.
Yeah.
Right. So
this is the who's on the bus. This is who's on the bus conversation.
Exactly. That is the exact discussion. And there were some people who said, look, I'm about ready to retire anyway. I don't want to mess with this, so I'll just go ahead and retire. That's fine. That was easy.
Yeah.
And there are the other ones that really wanted to, they just didn't have the capabilities. But what we did was help them find another organization that they could go to that was okay with, and wanted somebody that just kept the lights on, right? Because there is a need for people that just keep the lights on. There's nothing wrong about that.
Many people talk about that as a strategy since I worked in the accounting field. And the accounting field, I worked at Deloitte. Back then it was called the Big Eight. I just aged myself. I already did that with cobalt paper and Greenbrier. Keep talking about that. But having said that, back then the strategy was up or out. You either were going to make partner or not. And if they knew you weren't going to make partner, they always helped you get placement. And the reason why they did that was so they would get customers down the road because they kept the relationship. How smart was that? And you did the same thing is what you're saying.
It's, that I hate when there's leaders out there or managers that think they're leaders that will tell somebody something like this and they say, hey, it's nothing personal. Yeah, it is personal. You've just screwed up their life, right? It's very personal.
Yeah, I know you may not be able to pay the rent for the next 3 months, but not personal. Yeah.
Not personal. Still buddies, right?
Yeah, I got to go to the club. They're waiting for me at the bar. Yeah.
You got any questions? I'm out of here. So that is, you got to help the folks. So it's, being a leader is one thing about meeting corporate objectives and all that stuff, but it's also the care and feeding of your team, right? Um, so it took me a little while. I'd say the first year, we changed out some positions, we changed some
Yeah.
roles, we brought in new people, we got people to buy into it. Um, and the manager of the data center, I walked in one day and
Yeah.
up there over his desk, he had put a sign, just with the old green bar paper on the back. There was still some around, but he had
Yeah.
made a sign that said Team Dwyer. And I said, "That's awesome." And he goes, "Yeah, we're Team Dwyer." And when you see stuff like that, the changes happen, right?
Yeah.
So then we did some really cool things, which I think was, one, we put a web front end on the old ERP system because the family said, we're not going to change ERP again. This is the one we're going to ride. Can you make it modern? Yes. So we put a web front end on it. We started using all current technology, .NET and Node.js and that. So we could really start connecting it with different things, right? So we put a whole web services layer on it. And these are all things to take that environment that still had a lot of power, and the company ran perfectly well on it. Manufacturing, MRP, accounting, everybody ran fine. It was just an old green screen, and you had to be, dialed into the VPN, and you couldn't have it on your phone. Well, we fixed all that. And so we went through the change management there. We brought in a new call center that was all cloud-based. Well, they had been using an old green screen call center, and they couldn't do the things they needed for the customer, right?
Yeah.
I remember going in and you'd see customer service agents that had just rows of sticky notes up of things they had to go back and do because they didn't have a system that really managed that. So we gave them those tools, started connecting the company together. So then we did that, and then we connected sales to service, right? And then we connected service to manufacturing. So now all of a sudden, the way that the president put it at one time is said that the Dwyer customer service agents have really become customer advisors, because now they could instantly get a hold of engineering, manufacturing, whoever, when a customer's on the phone and says, can I put this with this and do that? Or I need to do, I need to measure humidity at this. Aha. Okay. Well, let me put the people together. Right. And if they couldn't do that, they could instantly just route the call right over to engineering, and somebody in engineering would pick it up. So put in systems like that. We took the company to the Google platform. I know that's controversial. A lot of people go, but nobody gets fired by putting in Microsoft. But it wasn't what the company needed at the time, right? At the time, we needed an environment. Dwyer, like all companies, they're you're in smaller environments, and you're needing to hire high-tech folks and powerful engineers, and it's tough. And we made the decision to allow people to work remote, but we had to put in a platform that we could do that. So we did that working with Google, right? And that's where I met you, if you remember.
That's when you gave
the first session. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That was the because, and we met. Oh, what was his name? The name of the company was Cloud Bakers, Mitch, and Mitch at Cloud Bakers, and we got together. And to this day, we're still using Cloud Bakers, and that was 5 years ago. So we did all those things to change the IT, but it was not just technology for technology. All of it was tied to where the president wanted to take the business. And to me, that's a key learning. We did that early on, right? In the first 90 days, I pulled out of his head and the COO's head, what is your dream state for Dwyer? Right? And they fed me a lot of stuff. It's like, hey, right now you're here, but we really need to get to this. And the president at that time, a great guy, and he had these ideas way out there. He had come right out of college and started Dwyer right out of college, and he was now in his mid 50s, right? Moved up to president. But he had all these ideas of where he wanted to take the company, and wanted to see how could IT enable that. So we had a blast doing all that, brought in some really cool stuff, a lot of cool point solution, moved a lot of stuff to the cloud, of course, but there were things like the ERP system that you couldn't move to the cloud, right? Well, you could if you had enough money, but as a privately held mid-sized company, you never had that kind of money, so you had to figure it out. So then at that point, the company became very attractive, and the family, they
So anyways, that is the first segment. Let me show you. How'd you like that? Any comments on that? It's a pretty good, interesting segment there. And like I said before, there's a whole interview you can watch here. It goes on for about 45, 50 minutes. And you can watch that with, that's Bill Hester under the Board of Advisors tab on our site. You scroll down, there's Bill right there. We do move those things around. You'll click on the page. And I thought that was a pretty good insight about the, what do you call it? The Department of No. So if you're running a shop, don't make sure you're not the Department of No, right? And I thought that was interesting. But if for those of you who are, doing your own digital transformation, been involved in them before, probably everybody at this point, that was a glimpse of his story. He went on for about 45 minutes and shared more about the whole process and the company he got bought up by a private equity firm and what that meant to the team and all that stuff. So very interesting presentation. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one. Let me see what's next. There's this. Let me go to the slides here. And the next one is insights. The next one we're going to share is my interview with Jeff Scheetz. And this is, he's a CIO at City of Avondale, and I call this insights from running an award-winning office of the CIO. So let me show you where that is again. So you go to our site. If you go to the site, and all this I'm showing you today is wide open. You just go here and just view it. Go to the tech review, technology executive review, leadership briefings. We may change that name. Oh, it's right here now. And by the time you get there, it might be one of these boxes down here. But right now it's right on top. And you click on it. And I'm going to start at the 1049 mark, but you should know that he's won. There's these annual awards that come out every year. I think they're called Icon Awards. They do them in all the big cities. And he's won it year after year, him and his team. So he shared some of the insights on how they did it. So with that, I'm going to let him tell you some of his own insights. Congrats on that. So let's do this. Let's kind of shift our conversation a little from the awards themselves, because it's really about doing the work and serving the community, right?
Yep.
So what are the lessons learned? Let's shift our topic into lessons learned from managing an award-winning IT function. And what I've done here is you sent me a list or some quotes, and I thought we would go through because these are the lessons you said you learned. And this first one really resonated with me. When it comes to awards, serving others through meaningful accomplishment is a true reward. I mean, that's a great thought, Jeff. What do you translate that for us into technology, and what you all did?
Yeah, no, Alex, I think this really ties back to even our city motto. I mean, that's making lives better, right? And so I think we've tried to instill that within IT as well. And that's our ultimate goal is to, again, while we don't interact, we're more of an internal services department here at the city. So we don't interact with the 100,000 residents within the city of Avondale. But we do want to make sure that our customers, now all the end users, whether that's the planning department, legal, whoever that may be, police and fire, the public safety divisions, have the tools and resources they need to ultimately meet the goals of the city, the strategic goals of the city, and then to serve the goals of the citizen and to do what they need for them. And a lot of that drives with a lot of that's economic development or working with the developer community as they build new apartment buildings or housing complexes, and making sure our planning team, development, engineering have the team and services they need, to keep the applications and permits and all that going as well.
That's great. It's interesting how, because of your function, you tie into everything.
Yeah, I look at it, yeah, exactly. I look at it like I have 18 lines of business here in the city. That's how many different departments we have, and they're very different in what they need and how they serve the public. That's awesome. Well, that's a great quote, and that's a huge lesson learned. So thanks for sharing that one with us. Let's jump to the next one. You say that planning and strategy is the key to success in any venture. Tell us about that, because in your notes that you sent me ahead of time, as we were talking about that, you
You spent a lot of time, even in the notes, just talking about that.
You know, to me, it's we got to have a plan to get where we're going, right? I think we'll still get somewhere if we don't have that plan, but we're not going to be as strategic and as focused as we do if we don't have that plan. So, you know, something we've really done the last couple of years is put more emphasis on the planning side of IT. The city has a 5-year strategic plan, and we've always just followed that and helped carry that out. But 2 years ago, we implemented an IT strategic plan that really helps us. It connects with the city plan, but also what's the IT goals and some of that we want to do, right? Whether that's getting to the cloud or replacing the aging hardware, whatever that may be. So we've really put that into place and are really looking at that on a regular basis to make sure we're focused. And then we're in the process of finalizing our cloud strategy as well. And so that's another something we want to be intentional about is what's next for this? What is this cloud thing, right? And how are we going to get there, and what extent? So, you know, those are the things we're working on, and we hope to have that finished during the next month or so, that cloud strategy, get that finalized.
That's great. One question I do have, we didn't talk about ahead of time. Are you all planning for the use of AI to help the citizen in some way, or what are you seeing out there? In fact, you know, let me just take this. I'll edit this part out. On a live one. How'd I pass it up? Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're back. We finished planning, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And so it's a testimony to the fact that you're all planning. And I asked you for some of your accomplishments this last year, and you talked about the fact that you finished the strategic plan. Well, I have, actually, I admit.
It's a 3-year roadmap.
Yeah.
The technology changes fast, you know. So yeah, it's something that we will revise kind of yearly as we look at budget priorities and city priorities and some of that as well each year.
Well, that's good to know. So if anybody really wants to know what our award-winning plan looks like, it's there for you. I mean, that's the thing. And you know, what's interesting is it's also there in all the other award-winning cities. You know, your 3 or 4 other peers that are out there, because you can learn from everybody. So it's kind of interesting to me. And speaking of that, I know you talk about the departments and the citizens a lot when I just talk to you. And I thought that this was a great quote. Partnerships and collaboration is critical to the success of IT. What do you mean by that when you say that?
You know, kind of as you mentioned, I mean, it really works. We have to work well with the other departments, right? They're the ones that have the direct interaction with the citizen and you know, that customer, and so they have that understanding of what's needed in that role, and so we got to partner with them to make sure we implement the right technology and some of that, and then it's also reaching out. The nice thing I've really enjoyed about government work in the public sector is that we all share ideas, and so. In the corporate world, it's more, you know, you're worried about sort of revealing your corporate secrets, right? You don't want to, it's competition. With us, we're all in the same business, right? So there's a lot of collaboration that goes on amongst our neighboring cities. And so, you know, we have partnerships with some of the neighboring cities here in the West Valley of Phoenix. We run a public safety center together, you know, so that's a key one as well. Then I've developed a great partnership with Australian Mountain Community College. On interns. We get interns every semester for help desk, our service desk, and cybersecurity as needed. So they come in and it helps us out a little bit, gives us a little extra help, and it really helps them out. They get credit for it as well. And then it helps them kind of have some experience when they go look for that first job out of college as well. So, you know, those are just a couple examples of some great partnerships and how we collaborate with others throughout the Valley.
That's great. So you really do walk the walk here on this, because you've been talking about this partnerships. I remember you telling me about this in our initial interview, which, by the way, everybody, if you haven't watched it, it's a really good interview with Jeff. Okay, well, let's go to the next one. And, I've heard people process technology a few times, but you still bring it back up. And you were just saying this while we were talking the other day, and I thought it'd be a good quote. At the end of the day, it's all about the people. Elaborate on that one.
I'm a firm believer there's with technology, there's nothing we can't do, right? I mean, if things open to us with technology, but we've got to have the people behind it. Otherwise we can't make it happen, right? So, you even look at these AI tools and things like that now, everybody's saying, well, you still need to have that human to verify it, right? And so there's, so it's at the end of the day, it really is about the people. We've really worked with a couple of the departments this year throughout the city, and it's really, like you said, people, process, technology. We're in the technology department, so it should be technology first, you would think, but it doesn't work that way in many cases. There is a key component about the technology, but again, if we don't have the people in place, the process in place to make it happen, the technology is only going to be so good.
Service department, IT is award-winning CIO of a service department in technology. How do you see the future? What are cities talking about? What are city managers and governors and all y'all talking about in terms of the future of citizen service?
This is great timing. Just probably the middle of the month, the middle of December here. I'm a member of the Connective. It's a collaborative organization here in the Phoenix Valley, both public and private entity and education, and really around driving innovation and coming up with solutions that we can deploy throughout the Phoenix region to really make us a smart region, and and kind of work together and collaborate that way. They actually had a conference about AI and it wasn't just in government, but it was AI, and there was a lot of interest. A lot of cities were there to show support, and talk about different things they're doing. And I mean, it's coming up in everything, right? Every piece of software you look at today, the vendors talk about how it's got AI built into it. So, we're really looking at that. The first steps in that are really putting those policies in place and those guidelines to make sure we do what we do is ethically and transparent, right? That's a lot of it as well. But there's all kinds of use cases for AI and excuse me, and scoping of projects, for one thing, to help us.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. And then looking forward or looking back for changes in costs and inflationary numbers and different things like that to really, help analyze a few things like that. And then the area of internal chatbots are really gaining a lot of interest to help around the area of benefits, as well. Employees can get out and ask questions to this AI that now maybe a person in HR or the benefits team doesn't have to take time answering if it can scrape the information and find it as well. So you're starting to see a few use cases like that come up.
That's really interesting. So if I'm listening to you, I'm hearing a lot of the functions that a lot of people use daily, AI is starting to just show up.
It is. You're seeing more and more interest in it, for sure.
And what's interesting to me is you mentioned a lot of internal applications, like doing the budget, analyzing the data, looking at your HR statement, I guess, or getting help from HR. That's very interesting. When I was looking at that question, I was thinking more like, a better rail system or autonomous cars, or, more really futuristic kind of things. Having said that, I saw on LinkedIn today some video about, I forget what the group was called, some type of Uber with no drivers. It's already out there. Have you heard about this one?
Yeah, I've seen a few of those around on the east side of the Phoenix Valley.
Oh, they have it in Phoenix?
They have some where you'll see some Ubers without drivers. It's interesting to see them driving down the road. But we're seeing a lot of, there's a lot of interest in autonomous vehicles, right? We're seeing that out there as well. I'm going to
stay on the west side of Phoenix now, knowing that. That's your side anyways, I think, right? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that segment. I'll show you where to watch the whole one if you want. I popped. Sorry about that little glitch about the AI in the middle there, but again, this one you can watch the whole thing. It's really good. He's got one thing I really liked about Jeff's comments was they were really inclusive about the entire community, and the purpose of technology and the team was to help the entire community. It's a really nice thought, and that's how they manage their group, which you could apply that to any company that you're in, organization that you're in. Again, that's at the main site, Technology Executives Review, TEC Review videos, and that's Jeff right there. But if you get there today, that'll be there, but it might get moved over into one of these slots here. And you can see we got a lot of good things here. Let's get to the next one. Let me get to the slides here. And oh, this is a little commercial. So be sure to if you're not already online and getting our insiders, that's where, we've been doing this since 2001. So a lot of content. I got over 500 presentations online, and you can get not all of them, but some of them just for free, just for being on our Insiders Club. So if you haven't done that, you go to our site. I'll show you in a second, and you just jump on the Become an Insiders member. All right. And if most of you are already on my newsletter list, so you should get this. And then we do have an opening. We are continuing to invite people to talk to me about the Board of Advisors. It's the Board of Advisors to it's to the community. I do get feedback from everybody, but it's more about the Board of Advisors to the community. And you can help others in the community. You will expand your executive brand. By the way, I'm just experimenting with today for those of you here with this new model, but we do get we have a pretty big audience nationwide, and also on the house list. So it's definitely a lot of exposure. And if you're internal CIO, CTO, it's really good for your career, as well as sharing and helping people. And obviously the benefits are a little more straightforward for the industry executives. Well, anyways, if you're interested, just reach out to me, and we can talk. Anyways, in the meantime, let's get back to the show. And the next one I want to show you is Tom Irvine, CIO of Monosol. And I'm going to skip to this one first, because he went to Gartner in the late fall, and he gave about 2 months ago an excellent presentation on what he learned from Gartner. And I like to share segments of this because he did a great job. All right, let's see.
And then they go into kind of a recommendation of 4.
Anyways, I picked this segment I'm going to show you. Is Gartner had this whole preliminary part about what CEOs want, and he shared that in the beginning, so you can watch that. Like what's on top of CEOs' mind, what is their top trends? Not all of it's AI. They even predicted, electricity outages. Great. So you can watch that. But in terms of AI, this is obviously a really important topic. So I wanted you to see some of this. I'm going to let this run for a little bit. All right.
4 key ideas. They're saying the era of Gen AI will shift human-machine relationships. And so that gets back to kind of what I mentioned before here, that people will connect in many ways, and many more ways than they do today, to the machine. And the better that connection is, the more seamless it is, the better your organization will do. And that to do that, you need machine experts and human experts. So how do we get the machine to work in a way, and you also need to be able to understand how do humans want to interact with the machine. And then the key relationship shift here is designing from attention. Right now, we look at, are we getting clicks? Are people looking at our products? How are they using them? And that way, to getting intimacy. So how close do they feel with our systems? So there is, and this makes sense, because many times people will say, I don't want to talk to a human. I just want to be able to go online and get the answer I need without having to be on the phone with someone. So how do you make it so that interaction becomes like a family member, or one that you feel connected to? And then the last one, which really should be the first one, we need guiding principles to address the unforeseen dilemmas. So there are so many things that could come out of this. Malinformation, security are just some of those, reputational risk and others. And so guiding principles are their recommendation of how we do that.
Before let me just make a quick comment here, and I'll get back to his presentation. So one of the stories he talked about in the beginning of his presentation was, those robot vacuum cleaners. This family had this vacuum cleaner, one of those, I forget what they're called, where they bump into the furniture and clean the dog, but they constantly cleaning. The family had one they called Marrow Sweep, and they got attached to this thing. And there was actually a problem with it, and they sent it back to the factory, and the factory said, "We can't fix it. We'll send you a new one." And they said, "No, we want you to fix it because it's part of the family." So that a little weird in my opinion, but if you talk about, what he's talking about in terms of the interaction with the machine and humans is changing, and that is a very important insight. And they're recommending that the more you can do that, the better your company will do in terms of interaction with your services or with your company. Having said that, let's get back to Tom.
So where will the payout be if going down the Gen AI on here? And their view is 2/3 is in efficiencies and 1/3 is in innovation. Efficiency, especially with internal processes, are where we expect to see those start. You can see that from our current vendors, how you can automate and how you can and find other ways that AI can help you to do the tasks that we're doing in much faster, better way. Innovation is harder. Using Gen AI to be able to come up with brand new ideas and new industries or new operation methods on here will take longer and a lot more experimentation. So and they classify it into two different kinds of AI. The first one, everyday AI, departments can realize significant productivity gains. That many of those are inefficient, is in the efficiencies area on here. They're saying the gains will become table stakes, and in the end will not lead to competitive advantage. So the point there is that everybody will be moving in this direction. They will see those gains, but it won't be a competitive advantage because the competition's already done that work. You'll only be at a disadvantage if you don't.
That's kind of an important statement there. There was a sound glitch there, but if you got to start using AI now is what they're saying, because there are going to be people that are going to be more competitive using AI, and they call that everyday AI. So Tom phrased it in a little different way, but people are going to start getting the gains from that now, but eventually everybody will catch up who's still in the game, still in the market. And that's where the innovation or game-changing AI comes on.
So that's what they're saying about everyday AI. The other one is game-changing AI. Those are the transformational changes that lead to business model changes on here. So, and they can be entire industries and all new products or reinventing core capabilities. Using AI in this way requires a different way of thinking and working. An example of this that they gave was of a new drug company in Hong Kong that is just using AI to identify potential drugs to be developed. And so they will, and they've been able to come up with a number of them with a very small staff as compared to the number of scientists that are typically employed in a drug company. Now, how successful are they? What's the long-term success rate of those kind of things? Don't know, but they're upending the market by using data that they have they've been able to get in how that AI works. They introduced this thing called the AI Opportunity Radar as a way to identify where you might want to play in this market here. The lower half is internal operations, the upper half is external operations, and typically internal back office or core capabilities, products and services. Front office might be, how do we use AI in say a chat bot in order to be able to answer customer questions on there, and where you start on one end from every day and go to the changes, and then you use this to plot your projects to say where are they and what level of risk do I feel like. There are they identified 3 scenarios on here that you might go for on here. One is just to start out by defending your position here, quick wins that improve specific tasks like Microsoft Copilot, Salesforce Einstein, maybe, that kind of a thing. Extend your position, invest in custom applications that provide a competitive advantage, i.e. wealth management, Gen AI, assisted financial advisors to create financial plans, and then upend your position in creating new AI-powered tools on here. So just one more thing about these 3 on here. The first one, might be fairly simple to do, right? If you've already got a vendor, you can turn on the option, you train people, you tell them how to use it, and they're up and running and seeing the benefits, hopefully. The second one might be require more work from your team on here, and then the third one requires a lot of work. The view on 2 and 3 are start small, pilot, see if it works, and then stop if it doesn't. Don't be prepared for big expense, but don't spend it all until you get your footing and you feel like you know what you're doing. According to the slide on here, different ways that organizations slide that they presented on here about the difference between a tool and a teammate, and how AI can go from what it can do for and then just a slide that they presented on here about the difference between a tool and a teammate, and how AI can go from what it can do for us to what it can be for us. And then this concept they also introduced here about an intelligent application, the combination between the one that were before, where we might be packaging the applications on here, to the ones that can be learning and developing better as it goes. So not just providing answers, but also constantly improving itself. And then after there was a bit of us that were a little shell shocked during some of these presentations on here, they tried to make it so that if you're not doing it yet, what they came back and said, if you're not doing it yet, that's okay. But first off, start getting your data ready. Make sure that you're doing the things over on the right-hand side. So is it ethically governed? Your data must align and develop your lighthouse principles. Is it secure? Is it free of bias as much as possible? Is it enriched on here? So these are the things that you can do in order to get your data AI ready, and start to get it so that you can start to leverage it when your organization wants to move. And then the 4 actions in the next 12 months that they specifically said on here, principles, or what they call lighthouse principles, to guide your organization of AI. So if you're afraid that AI might might have some kind of a bias, say a human bias on there, that could be one of your lighthouse principles that we check with diverse our match up with our values, lighthouse principles like that, or that we never put our data in a public area that can be accessed by others, so that it's always secured. Those are the kind of principles that they recommend you think through and put in place on there. And then the AI ready data that I just went through on there. Also, implement security here. So the creation and acceptable use policy for any kind of public generated AI solutions. Some companies have already done this, but in a very, very strong way, and said that people should not use it, or they shouldn't use it to put anything that's in the environment on there. But there are other ways that you can leverage Gen AI with that's a little bit more open than totally locking folks out. And then the part here, if you haven't started, it's okay, but you better be on a path here by the end of the year. A couple of other general on here. One is that they believe it's going to be a meta industry with various sectors, as such as hardware, software, services. So instead of just talking about Gen AI as a chatbot on here, that hardware vendors will get into this, and others will. So it's not just one thing, and that Gen AI will be used in many different ways as its own huge industry. There's
Anyways, he goes for, you can tell that was a really interesting presentation. He just really presented, a lot of information from the Gartner event. So if you like that, I would recommend you watch that whole thing. I'll show you where that is. That's again, at the site, Technology Executives Review videos. And that's Tom Irvine CIO report on the Gartner Symposium forecast. So we're going to do one more, I think. Goes fast, doesn't it? And this would be the keynote panel with these folks. Let's see if we can get to that slide. Already did this one. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. So this will be the keynote panel with Tom Drez, CIO of Christian Brothers, just retired. I think the last 20 days. He was still the CIO when we did the interview. Tom Irvine, the CIO of Monosol, and John Parkinson, a regular here. He's actually world famous. If you don't know him, he's written many books, and he's been a CIO, CTO, a lot of big companies. He's a great guy. They're all great guys. Okay, with that, let me get to the video. And again, this one's also on the Technology Executives Review. Sometimes we do more of the board members one. This one we just happen to be skewed towards these. So this was our panel. Whoop, it's right there where it says 2000 review and 2024 keynote panel. And let me get this on the screen for you. And I'm about 2.5 minutes into it. All the intros, I skipped those for you. And this went on for a little while. I won't show you the whole thing. I think it went on for like 50 minutes. I'll just show you the first 10, 15 minutes of it. All right, with that, let's get right into it. So question one, whoever wants to answer, go for it. Otherwise, I'll call on you. Bill Gates calls this period in humanity the age of AI. And, we've seen hype cycles. In fact, Tom just gave a presentation in another segment of this show where he was talking about the Gartner hype cycle, and we're about to go over the precipice, according to that chart. What makes AI such a game changer? Anybody?
Yeah, I'll jump in. First, I want to say, Tom, great presentation. Thanks for going to Gartner and bringing all that back to the nest. Not everybody can afford to go to Gartner all the time, so nice to have somebody on the spot. Yeah, I'll jump in then, if you don't mind, John.
Go ahead.
Here at CBS, we're in the insurance and financial services businesses, so we don't make anything. So I really can't speak from a manufacturing standpoint, but when I look at AI, it actually takes me back a while. Here I've been here almost 37 years, so I've seen a few different cycles. And I'll say AI now fits into what I call, or what somebody has termed over the years, the consumerism of technology. This is, a lot of times as CIOs or technology leaders, business and technology leaders in our organization, we're looking, we have to keep an eye on enabling technologies. And when we see that they're ripe, we bring them back to the nest, right? Otherwise, it's business and technology first. A business unit has some requirements. You go to find a product or a service that meets their needs. But when the consumerism of technology comes along, this has impacted people, the employees, and starting probably at home. So when that happens, there's a groundswell where the consumers, your employees, start to push the business. Hey, we've got this brand new tool. We're starting to use it outside of the office. We want to use it inside the office too. So you've got this groundswell, and it's not IT saying, oh, because we've been using IT in certain products and services and parts of the business for years. It's nothing new to us. So I'm calling it the consumerism of technology. And of course, the consumers like it because I think it's going to greatly improve, or they think it's going to greatly improve their productivity, right? So it's going to help them work smarter, not harder, get their job done faster and better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to build on that, I think that's a insightful perspective on this. This is kind of the fourth wave of where the consumer, who also happens to be an employee somewhere, had technology ahead of where they worked. We went through it with the computer, we went through it with the internet, we went through it with mobile devices, and now we're going through it with this AI thing that it conveniently isn't really defined by anybody. So it can be applied to whatever cute stuff you figured out how to do with a tool built by somebody else, delivered in a way you don't understand, doing stuff you can't account for.
Yeah, the last big consumer is the last big thing I remember.
Hope you like that quote. That was a great quote.
Would be we all used mainframes and mid-range computers, green screen text, and then everybody at home started going to Best Buys or wherever the world, stores that don't even exist anymore, and every machine they bought had Windows on it and a mouse. They wanted that graphical user interface.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was I do agree. That's a huge insight. I haven't read that or seen that anywhere, but that is a huge insight. It is preceding what's happening in the enterprise, in the company. Tom, did you want to add anything to that one?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would add there would be that it can do a lot of things that we're not quite sure that people might not be sure of. So I think, like John was saying about, it's doing stuff that we don't know what it's doing, and it's giving us results back. And I think about something like you turn it on all of your data, and then you instead of having to create a report or create a model to be able to analyze that, you type something in and out comes a report saying, your budget was 17% over what it should have been, and these are the areas I would look at, as opposed to somebody having to do that analysis themselves. So it's it's a way of being able to say, if done correctly, are we able to even go, not just be more efficient, but are we able to skip steps, or even have people who are working at a higher level, again, if it's done correctly. So I think that's a big piece, and that's being offered here, and one of the expectations of it.
And you have to think about it from what does it amplify beyond what humans could be doing anyway. Right. So a lot of automation that we've been working on for most of a decade now doesn't require any kind of intelligence. It's entirely rule-based.
Yeah.
And it basically takes the human error function out of the process. And we've got a long way with that, but there's plenty of areas where we can still continue down that road. What the AI in all of its forms does is it lets our processes and our people use data at scale in a way that as individuals we couldn't. Not because we don't know how to, because we don't have time. So it manages to compress in the time dimension the tasks that we know we should be doing but don't have time to. And the more we focus on those areas, that's where the efficiency comes from.
I like that.
Productivity comes from. The more we focus on those, the more we can free up our people to think about what should be going on in the innovation space.
That's the point, right? So if you look at the Eisenhower matrix, so we're going to do more work on the critical side, whether it's urgent or not, is what you're saying, because you're gonna get away from
Well, here's the irony, Alex.
Yeah.
The efficiency mindset that capitalist economies have kind of overlaid on society has to get tuned a bit now, because to be good at this, we have to waste time.
We have to
try things that
play.
Won't work.
You have to play.
You have to play. You have to experiment. Now, you shouldn't be stupid about it. You should learn from what you do, but you cannot expect to get it right first time every time.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that
I find? I have a bunch of private equity clients that come with questions to me about this stuff all the time.
Yeah,
and I have to tell them, you've got to stop thinking that the productivity is the only outcome of this. Right? Yes, you'll get the productivity, particularly if you're smart in the way that you run experiments, but it's got to look at the end of the day that you put 100 units of resource in and 25/40 of them were wasted. That they proved that what you were trying to do didn't work. There's value in that, but it's a different mindset about how you get to value than the one that we've really had from the automation push for the last decade.
So the automation push, which started with the manufacturing plant, I assume, was get everything in a row, and we're going to do more and more and more per minute, right? We're just going to do more work fast, the same work, more of the same work faster.
Well, Taylorism was let's figure out the most efficient way to do something. Then let's put people in like they were machines.
Yeah.
That idea. And only slowly did we evolve away from that and say, let's take away from people the things that people don't need to do and leave the things that only people can do to the people and make that more efficient.
So I read this article recently that said, with automation, AI, and all this, we'll be able to get a lot of the necessities done for humans. Do any of y'all buy into that? I mean, we just talked about now the grid's going to, we don't even have the grid working good enough. So where is this going to occur? Whose lifetime that we are all going to have this stuff just provided and taken care of? How is AI? It seems like that's a little bit of an overreach for me.
So the concept of being able to develop this post-scarcity society where all the basic necessities are taken care of for you for free, and you can go and be creative. It's a great idea. It won't be in my lifetime. And probably not anybody on this call's lifetime. Maybe grandkids, great grandkids. That's only 100 years after all. So, and if you think about how far we've come in the last 100 with relatively primitive technologies,
that's true.
Then it is easy. It's easy to speculate, hard to be right.
Yeah. Well, that's where you move into the have and the have-nots. So you'll have societies that have and have societies that don't. But we're getting way beyond. But you guys know me, right? So, no, John, I'm going to add. We'll do the mystery thing, but we'll also do the dystopian movie fan club, Tom. So, anyways, question 2. We'll go to the next question here. I'm going to jump to another question here that I think will be relevant for you. We did a lot of stuff here on this one. See if I can get to this question here real quick for you. This one here is, how should people be getting ready? Actually, I'm gonna do this one here from number 4 also. John had a really interesting insight here. See if I get to the beginning of this, and we'll do a little of 5. Well, there it is. All right, here we go. Let's get to this because, we're spending a little time on AI for obvious reasons, but, crystal ball time, Gartner said right now it's efficiency, personal efficiency, right? And then they had a big category that says innovation. Somebody's going to figure out how to innovate with this thing. So what do y'all, what your prediction? What's going to separate the winners and losers? By the way, I'll mention, you all have heard my friend Robert Blackwell speak. He's spoken, and he talks about this concept he calls monetizable AI. And he talks about helping companies go lean. It's going to help identify where the waste is. And he's done that with his practice. And I think that's a really good use of AI, and also identify the opportunities. Where do you all see, some big winners where this could separate the winners and the losers? Because I do think it will happen, that there are going to be companies that don't embrace a more modern technology platform, and they'll get left behind. What do you all think?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Robert. What does Robert do, right? He measures, he quantifies, he analyzes and calculates, and then articulates the benefits.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be those companies that do that. And if they don't do that, then they're going to become like the Blackberries and the Nobels and the Palm Trios and Palm Pilot Company. They're going to disappear, and it could be pretty darn rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So you're saying in the technology space, you're going to see a big shift. That's what I'm hearing. I hadn't thought of it in that way, but that makes a lot of sense. We just have another big wave. And I think, Tom, you identified it correctly. We're seeing it first, and we're seeing it in the consumer side, although it's been around in other areas for a while. Mm-hmm. But now what's happening is it's going to be a requirement to integrate that into your product line. That's what I'm hearing, into your service. And it has to have tangible benefits. Otherwise, no one's going to buy it.
Right.
John, you want to add something to that? Thank you, Tom.
So the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
It's going to be the companies that can attract and retain talent, that can be agile and responsive to the markets they operate in, and that can pass through the hype to pick out and leverage the things that make sense for them to use to improve efficiency and create space for innovation. Mm-hmm. And it's a little foolish to do this winners and losers thing, Alex, in my view, because there's always a distribution of outcomes, right? There's some people who become Google or become OpenAI or even become Microsoft, but there's a bunch of other people who do just fine by being average, not by being out at the 2 Sigma performance level.
Yeah.
And then there'll be the ones who fall away, the Novels and the Palm Pilots and the Nokias of the world.
So you don't have to be alpha to be a winner.
Right.
Yeah.
What you have to do is figure out what's important for you in your market, the way your culture operates, the people that you attract, what your customers expect from you, and how you ride that set of expectations, leveraging technology as you go.
I like that.
Most companies won't do it very well, but they'll survive. Some will not do it well enough and they'll fall away. And some will be brilliant at it and gradually shift the state of the game for everybody else.
That was the insight I wanted you to hear, that it doesn't have to be the winners or losers. Let me jump to this last part here. About what you should do in your company to get ready. One day, and the challenge that these guys have is they can't sift through them, which is why they have people like the Judge Group to help them with that. So it's not so easy. It's not so easy to pull that off these days. So anyways, question 5. Many pundits say CIOs, we're going to move the pace along a little quicker on each of the questions so we can get through it. So we have 8 altogether. Many pundits say the CIO should get ready for AI by A, creating a governance plan, B, start managing your data if you haven't. By the way, I would say start's the wrong question. Continue managing your data or get it ready. Invest in AI pilots, work with your major suppliers to see what they're already doing, and take a look at the impact on cybersecurity. Anything we missed there and sort of the key bullets?
For us, the focus is dialogue and education, and our senior managers, this is one of those technologies because they saw it, they see it, they use it. they can have this conversation. They come to me. I don't have to always go to them. So it's right now we're in the education phase. We'll have to take it to the employees, and it's going to be it'll be more of an education on how AI could be a personal productivity tool. But then also we have to teach people how to know when it's not telling the whole truth or hallucinating or making things up. Or we certainly don't want employees to use it and then run into any ethical problems.
Does that go along the same training as how to know it's spam or a phishing thing?
True. Yes.
Sounds very similar.
It is.
Yeah. So anybody else want to add on this one? Tom?
No, I think we got it.
Yeah. John?
The only one I would add is you need to start thinking about how to be a smart experimenter.
Yeah. That's the innovation thing, right?
As an industry, we don't have a good history in that regard, and we really do need to start figuring out how to make the fail fast model work.
That's a good segue into the next question. Now you're in charge of the product delivery. Well, that was pretty good. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, there's more, obviously, and you can watch it here on the site. Technology Executives Review the videos section, the TEC Review videos, and then you can go to the panel here, and it maybe get moved around by the time you get there. But I hope you enjoyed that. So that was the little insights from our 2024 technology trends forecast, and I already showed you this one here. So that is it for the content portion of today. I hope you enjoyed it, which is a good sign. So I hope you enjoy. If you have any comments or want to say hello, just say something in the chat box. But I hope you enjoyed that new approach to what we're doing here. We'll continue to do some of the other events where it's a live event and that kind of thing. But I really enjoy putting this together for you. Just so many great content that we have. We have so many great people that can help. And just real quickly, a reminder, and let me show you this to get that insiders. Everybody here, I think, that's still on is still a newsletter subscriber. I think, not everybody. If you're not a newsletter subscriber, be sure and go here. This is the area where you can get involved and joined. And make sure you join that free Insiders Club. And by the way, if you're getting my newsletter and you're not looking at our stuff online, we've got a masterclass workshop on 10 habits or disciplines of highly effective CIOs. We also have a virtual seminar channel. We did during the pandemic, we did 2 years worth of virtual seminars. You get all that. And I'm also going to throw in this new thing. We're almost done, the AI for the Enterprise workshop that we did. So it's really cool. So be sure to do that if you're not already in there, if you're not a member already. Some of you are members, but not everybody here is a member. And the Insiders member is free. That level is free. And then the other thing is, don't forget my invitation to get involved as a Board of Advisors member. Now, this is a unique concept. It's similar to, I think if you may know of Forbes Consoles, but we do it all with video and podcasts, a little more current than the blogs. And I think it's really an idea which time has come. And you get involved in the community by being a mentor or help to the community, and you share your insights with the community. And again, it's the Board of Advisors to the technology community. There's a lot of benefits to it. This is a generic benefit. If you're a CIO, CTO, you'll get involved and you can enhance your executive brand, you get exposure nationwide, and you can grow your network, which can help you help people. It feels good, but it can also help your career. And we have some people that's actually done for. And if you're a provider, obviously, it can help you draw people to you and also increase some of your ratios for outreach and things like that, which we can talk about if you're interested. Anyways, that's that. So if you're interested in that, it's now open to director and level and above, internal IT executives, as well as technology industry executives. Some people switch back and forth. If you're a consultant, owner, principal, senior exec, or CXO in a technology facing business, so either a provider or consultant, that kind of thing. All right. So with that, be sure and just reach out to me, or you can go on the discovery call area of the site and schedule something. And with that, I'll just do our regular closing. One last thing I added in there. We're going to start adding sponsors back. So if you're interested in learning more about our program, just reach out to me Jarett at technologyexecutivesclub.com. And it's going to be a little different than what we used to do, in line with the new show. And thank you for attending. I always say this, and it's true. It's an honor to serve you and the team, your teams. And so if I can help you in any way, let me know. So thanks for being here today.